summer maintenance, and long-term sustainability. Just letting everyone know we are recording this session, so just keep that in mind, and we put these up on our website for you to be able to access, or those who couldn't make it to access after the fact. We're going to make this one be a little bit more interactive with the ability for to hear directly from teachers who are on the call. We expect that there'll be a smaller attendance for this one, so we might just stay in the main group depending on numbers. As always, the session goes from now until about 4:30. So I will begin. Yeah, just in case you didn't hear, we are recording the session today and it will be on the portal page. So wanted to acknowledge the land that both Addie and myself are presenting from today, which is the Lekwungen homeland, which is the modern day Songhees and Esquimalt nations. I know that many of our staff are coming from different areas and many of you are coming from all across the province. If you would like to do your own welcoming in the chat, please feel free to do so. It's always great to hear where everyone's coming from in terms of the traditional land. And as many of you know who've been attending, it's been myself and Addie presenting along the way. I'm the Capital Region animator here in the Capital Region, and Addie is the food literacy advisor. And so you probably have come across her resources. A lot of that stuff that's up online, teacher tools and whatnot has been her handiwork. So Farm to School BC is a program that brings healthy, local, and sustainable food into schools across British Columbia and provides students with hands-on learning opportunities to develop food literacy, all while strengthening the local food system and enhancing school and community connectedness. We are a program of the Public Health Association of BC, and we are supported by the Province of British Columbia and the Provincial Health Services Authority. And up on that slide, you just see a couple other programs that are administered by the Public Health Association of BC as well. So we're organized, we're a provincial organization, and we're organized into 8 regional hubs across the province. And so these regional hubs have animators like myself and like some of the other animators who are joining us today. They reside in these different hub regions that you see in the top right, which coincides with different school districts. And so these animators are in those regions there to support teachers, to support the community, and to really continue the work that we are doing. We also support other regions across the province in many ways, including grants and the provincial resources that are available. But if you happen to reside in any of these areas you see on your left-hand side, you may want to reach out to one of our animators, and you can find their contacts on our website under our team. Speaking of our team, here they are. Oops, this slide got doubled up. So we've been using this graphic throughout the series, the mentorship series, which started back in January. And so now we're kind of coming into sort of phase 3, but there's an overlap here. And so these are some of the focuses that we want to be thinking about now, but want to also be continuing to think about how we're moving forward. So for today, when you look at the committee work, we kind of divided into these 2 sections, sort of the way in which we work alongside our fellow staff or it might be teachers to maintain the garden, to help build connections to students, pardon me. But then you kind of have this component of actually the physical garden that you're maintaining. So this session, like most of them, will touch on both of those things. And at the end of the workshop, we will be doing another giveaway. And today is going to be a book. And so that is the School Garden Curriculum, super amazing book, which was created on the West Coast of the States, but applies a lot to our climates as well. Really great stuff in this book about engaging with students, pedagogy, class, lesson plans, et cetera. So you have to be a teacher within BC to win this prize, and that's going to come at the end. We've got a quiz question for you to see who will win, and then we will send it out to you. So I will pass it over to my co-presenter, Addie. Now, thank you.
It's just when all the custodians are going past us right now on the portable, so it's a little loud, so I apologize for the background noise. So today we're going to be talking about a few things. We're looking at some school garden photos, because who doesn't love to see pictures of gardens? Looking at the, oh, there they go. Summer maintenance guide. How to support your program through staff turnover, and thinking about a team reflection. How did the last year go? What are you going to do for next year? What was your process like? So just some questions to bring back to your school garden committee. And as always, please feel free to ask questions. You can either raise your hand. So at the bottom of the screen, you can look at there's a little happy face for reactions. And if you click on there, there's a little raise hand, and we can call on you, and you can unmute yourself, or just write it right in the chat and we'll answer it as we go. So yeah, please let us know. So some school garden photos. Roanne sent these to me from the north. So I don't know, Roanne, if you want to speak to any of these. But this is a local community garden and some school garden space with some wonderful greenhouse. So Rowan's there on the left there in the picture, and some really cool raised beds that are, yeah. Anything else you want to add, Rowan? A few of these are yours.
Yeah, no, they're lovely to see the progress of the photos you're looking at now in Vanderhoof. That's been 10 years in the making and developing relationships there with the community garden. So they, yeah, share the space there. It's actually school district property that is both used for the school garden, but also a community garden for Vanderhoof. It's a pretty amazing collaborative space. Yeah, very beautifully done. And you see on the right, those are new raised beds that they built there, which are just beautiful. And you just stand and work away in there. And they have some other photos of some beds that have accessibility elements. So anyone can garden in those.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry, your mic isn't super awesome. It's a little staticky.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Maybe if you could just mute yourself. Sorry. Thank you. Hopefully we can sort that out. So this is a school in Quesnel here. It looks like they just got some new raised beds, and they're going to fill in with that. I'm sure it's beautiful black soil there. It looks amazing. And this school, Heritage Elementary, is in Prince George, and they got a farm to school grant to buy the grow tower, and they've been growing lots of other veggies and stuff there. Arthur Hatton just planted their tomatoes and peppers and tomatillos that they've been growing under grow lights. You can see their microgreens in the background as well in that picture on the right. So these giant tomatoes went into the ground last Monday. So the students were helping prep all the beds and everything to get those tomatoes into the ground. Yum.
I can speak to this one, Addie. I've got a few kind of that I put in here as well. So this is just close by my house, actually. It's Westshore Center for Learning and Training. It's a really cool program that engages secondary students into the garden. This is only like a fraction of it here. They've been really fortunate to have a member on staff that it's essentially, I don't know what the exact hours is, but quite a few hours that they're able to work specifically with students in this garden. And so they take out a number of classes all the time. There's a few other little plots around the side as well. A couple more for in and around the capital region here. Sorry, it's a little dark, that one on the left there, but Reynolds is a school that's been around for a number of years, and they do these grow sack gardens just right at the side of their property there. And a lot of those salad greens go into their salad bar program that they have. They also run a really cool summer education program called Seed the City based out of there. So there's a secondary school. And so the students actually, it's a partnership between the school district and a local nonprofit here. And so they educate them on how to be, urban farmers, and they go to the mini pop-up market stand and they get credit for it. So that's pretty cool. And on the right is a Spectrum. And this was actually them building out their Indigenous plant garden. And so they kind of went for this sort of Mandela style, these little different cool shaped of plants, and then mulched the paths with wood chips. So this is, I'm starting to get in we're starting to see some of the reports come in from the past couple of years of those who received grants from 2020 specifically. And so I just grabbed a few different pictures from them. I don't know the projects specifically, but this one's Kidston Elementary, and they're growing out of more of this kind of like metal tub system, a bunch of greens, and they got a nice little rainwater type catchment system there. A little just detail I'll point out here is about this rainwater is you always want to, whenever you are going to get something like this, you do have to raise it up off the ground so you have enough room to get your jugs under. So don't go filling one before that happens. And then you'll notice this little metal wraparound here. It's really good to have that attached up to a fence or another board or something so that it can't ever tip over on the students. So just a couple things that I noticed that they're doing it right in this picture. Hatzic Elementary, a couple little planter boxes looking really good. This is such a teeny, oh, okay, it's a long box, gotcha. I thought it was just a little mini one there on the right, but it's just the perspective. Parkview Elementary, I like this outdoor classroom. They got the tree right in the middle, these stumps, and then they actually have the planter boxes around the outside. It'll probably get really cozy in there if those plants end up getting taller. If you had tomatoes or things in there, you'd feel kind of nooked in. So I like that. I like that design idea there. East Kensington shared these pictures of these boxes. I think these may even be self-watering containers. Is there anyone on this call that knows about this this garden that could speak to these? Because these are obviously pre-bought. These aren't built ones. You can put your hand up, or you could jump right in and speak. I was kind of curious about these ones.
I don't know if the teacher, hi, Claudia here from Surrey Hub. I don't know if one of the teachers here from East Kensington is joining, but I know this school, and yes, they are self-watering planters. Okay. And I am so happy to see how the plants look like. Amazing.
Yeah, they're looking really, really good. That's for sure. Thanks, Claudia. And another local one that just got funding from us a couple years ago. This is also really close down the street from me. This is Ruth Elementary. And just wanted to point out one thing that I thought was neat about it is these planter boxes were all built by just like a local guy who had a mill. He wasn't a business or anything. He just had a mill, and the teacher here, teacher librarian, reached out to him and asked for the specific cuts for this, and he cut all of the beds just exactly the size that he wanted, and even pre-drilled the holes. And the price of the boxes was about nearly half as cheap as it would be store-bought. Plus he was able to get really thick, nice thick wood. It was like nearly 2 inches thick wood, which in the store it's really just a 2x4 is not anywhere near 2 inches. So yeah, I had this come in today, and got a lot of fruit trees and different things like that. Can't quite tell in this specific picture, but in the picture to the right, along the fence is like one kind of like long bed that's kind of different levels. And so the idea is that it's going to really green along that fence there. And then within this picture as well, there's or outside of this picture as well, there's a bunch of boxes that they actually put out there. They're specific for different classrooms. So there's a combination of individual boxes for classrooms, and then also kind of this shared communal space. I don't know if Kevin's on the call right now. If he is and wants to say anything, please feel free. I don't think he is. Okay, I'll move along then. So back over to Addie, please.
All right, so it's always nice to see beautiful pictures of gardens and seeing how things are growing. I just invite you to take a little bit of a stretch. I know it's only Tuesday, but it's the end of a day. All right. So when we think about our gardens, whatever your garden looks like right now, you are going to need help. We all need help at different points in our lives, sometimes more than others. And what we've really been stressing through this whole process is hopefully you are not doing all of this by yourself, because running these beautiful gardens is a lot of work. So when you are thinking about moving into the summer, what are we going to do in July and August? What's your plan? What are you thinking about for September? I know it feels so long ago, and we have like 16 more days or something here. It's sometimes not helpful to count down, I find. But from where starting from where you are, be clear on really what you need. So what does your community garden need from others, and what capacity do the people on your committee have? So when you are reaching out, you are being very clear on who you're going to be engaging with. What are you going to ask them to do? So looking at the ripple in the pond diagram that we use, starting with you and your colleagues and kind of working out from there, saying, what do we have? And therefore, what do we need? And it's all about communication. So Marcus, on the next slide, I have a quote that I love. And good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. And I have learned again and again in my life that there are so many things that are based on good communication. So having a good check-in, which we'll be doing in a few minutes with yourself, and working out from those ripples in the pond. How are you doing? How is your community going to be able to help your school garden? So how's your school garden committee doing? And making sure that you have really good communication, because you don't want to have confusing phone calls in the middle of July and it's hot and is the water working? So we're going to get into this a little bit more, but let's do our best to not have that confusion and go for the clarity. So communication is key, and we are all learning how to do it better and better. So on our website, Marin and worked on this last year, and it is wonderful. So we're going to go through the summer maintenance guide. We'll pop the link in the chat. So this guide is a PDF on our website, and we go through all of the things to think about going into the summer. So I assume that you're on the call, you have some sort of plan for the summer or have some sort of growing. So we're going to work through this guide together. So when you're thinking about those ripples in the pond, who is going to be working in the garden? So it could be, hopefully it's not you. You are not the only one going out there and watering early in the morning every other day. You can be asking grown-ups and parents of your students, grandparents. The students themselves could come out if they're older. Thinking about other teachers or other school staff, community organizations. Now is the time to do that. Don't be calling or getting in touch with anybody on June 30th when you're like, oh no, I haven't thought about what to do for the rest of the summer, and you're stuck doing the garden, because that's no fun. Maybe you could reach out to the people who live around the school or who overlook the gardens. They might be more than happy to help. Check out their gardens. If they have a good garden themselves, maybe they'll want to help out with your school garden. There might be some summer school programming, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Or thinking kind of in the long term that you might have some community gardens that you're working in, and maybe it's not on school grounds. So some schools have their gardens at community gardens. So maybe there's a bit of a network there that you can reach out to, or who is going to take care of it. Marin, feel free to jump on at any point as you helped create this.
I just wanted to also add, like, even local gardening associations or like horticultural specialists. A lot of communities have them as well. They can be, it's part of their work to do that, to go and support local gardens.
So when you get into the details, I'm just going to pop it into the chat. So if you go to the page that I just posted in there, there's 2 different PDFs. So we're working through one of them right now. So when you're thinking about maintenance, there's different ways to do it. So you could have a sign-up sheet that parents or families sign up for a whole week of care, and hope there's some backup there. So the person, the family who's in charge of it are taking care of it for the 1 week. They know they're not going on any holidays. Nobody's signing up for, overextending their capacity. And having contact information. So the people who are running it that week can then phone the next people or send them an email. Remember, you're coming up next week. And it can be rotating through for the next 8 weeks. Then it's not too much of an onerous task for anybody to do all by themselves. And there is backup in case, there's a last minute, trip or something that needs to happen. So remember that when people are working in the garden, they would like some food too. They need something for their time. They're not just going to go and water and weed for nothing. So you can figure out what crops families who are working in the garden can take in exchange for their time. Or maybe there's a little space in the garden that they could grow food themselves. Another way to manage the summer is having a volunteer gardener coordinate, and they're picking days for work parties. So you could use volunteersignup.org or Google Forms, like whatever your method of communication is with school guardians, that you are hosting maybe events every week or every other week and having times where people can gather. Again, figure out what the COVID regulations are, but if it's outside and maybe there's some food sometimes, even better. And again, this can be done with the principal or other administrator to send it out more widely. So you might be getting people who will come to a couple of work parties. But again, this might not work for everybody in case people don't show up, or, you know, as happens, it's hard to know how many people are going to come to something. It's a really good idea to have a to-do list. So people might have different familiarity with gardening. And if there's a to-do list, like a checklist of make sure all these beds are watered, make sure that the tools are returned at the end of the day, all of the information that everybody's going to be using who maybe you're unfamiliar with the space, that if you have maybe a printout thing or a virtual list, just like some online list that people can make sure that they're doing every time they come into the garden, so there's some consistency. You could also partner with a local organization, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but that's kind of a longer term project and it will be harder to get in place for this year. And if anybody has any other ideas about summer gardening, just feel free to pop it in the chat. So as we were saying before, when you're thinking about the ripple in the ponds, it's like you and your colleagues and your students, maybe you're reaching out to your broader community, that you're going outside of your school and the parents and the students who are involved with a project and going with other groups. So again, people want to receive something every time they come to the garden. Maybe not every single time, but if they're coming for a week, then they're going to harvest something at the end of the week. Otherwise, they're not going to come back. So they can be harvesting some of the portion, or maybe come back at the end of the summer if nothing's ready right then. Collecting the produce during the summer and preserving it. Maybe there's access to a freezer. You can just be picking tomatoes and putting them in a plastic bag and throwing them in the freezer. So if you're thinking about that, if things are going to be ready over the summer, what are you going to be doing with it if you want to use it in September? You can be collecting seeds, which is super fun. It's a really nice way to do seed saving. If something goes to seed, just let it go. It's all good. That's fun learning. You can harvest those lettuce seeds in the fall and keep them for next year. Collaboratively planting, maintaining, and harvesting. And then certain beds, it depends on your school design, that maybe some can be for the school, maybe others for a partner group, so that you're sharing the workload of it, because it's a lot. Because July and August are busy months in the garden. Maren just noticed that working with your local master gardener to host some of the skill shares, because they often need volunteer hours, for sure. Yeah, Master Gardening is a great organization, and people are usually really happy to come out. And Marcus suggested too, skill sharing at work party sessions, how to prune and trellis. Yeah, so if people are getting knowledge in exchange for their time, then that's awesome too. So when you're physically accessing the garden through the summer, make sure that for water, number one is water. Make sure that the water stays on. This has happened many times over the years, that the water gets shut off because facilities goes and turns it off. They do it at every school and kind of forget that you still need it for July and August. So if there's an emergency contact number, very important, or if something's not working, or if a key goes missing, water situation is different at every school district, at every school, but make sure that that conversation is had, not when it's a heat wave in July. Keys, we really recommend using a code lock instead of keys, and then people aren't worrying about exchanging it. You can just text them or phone them with the combination lock. For storage is also really important to have somewhere that's not within the school building, that there's some sort of tool storage outside in the garden for the summertime.
And just to add to this, we talked a little bit about this last time. If you don't have storage, which sometimes is the case, and you have budget, it might be worth, investing in just some items that you give to your specific volunteers who are really going to be invested. Maybe that's gloves, or maybe that's a single trowel or something. If you don't have storage, just a thought. And sometimes just even asking out to the community, people often have this stuff themselves.
Yeah, it's a great idea. So when you are planting in the garden and you're there every day, you know where everything is, and you know that that garden is not to get touched over the summer, or somebody's going to use that for a specific thing. But if you're having volunteers, if you're having other people using the garden space, make sure that those locations are noted. So if you draw out a map of the garden, certain beds might need more water than others, or some might be a seed saving garden. So please don't harvest the things that are coming off of it. Make sure, again, it comes back to the clear communication that the more people are helping is amazing, but we need to be very clear about how they can help. So the garden map is going to be really helpful for that. So you could have a map or just a sign in the bed saying, please don't harvest it. It's a seed saving bed, or whatever it's happening. A water, again, it's very important. July and August are hot, hot, hot. So when we think about watering, and maybe there's a little bit of an orientation for this, if folks aren't really comfortable watering, a deep watering is going to be much better than a really shallow watering. So if you water heavily twice a week in most parts of the province, that's probably going to be enough for you. So whether you're having an overhead sprinkler, a handheld hose, if you are watering the leaves, make sure that's happening in the morning or the evening. We're not wanting to burn the leaves of the plants, or a soaker hose like that middle picture. Marcus, did you want to speak to some of these?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Addie. Just a couple reminders. We've gone over this before, but just to ensure, because it is such a crucial time of the year, and in case there are new people in on this call, like this is the time where everybody is kind of is going to be putting in their plants before heading away. So just a few real quick ones to mention. For transplants, we didn't talk much about this, but consider hardening off your plants for a few days. This just really means taking your plants outside and exposing them a little bit to the sun, to the different environment. And that can even be just for, the time while you're at school for 5, 6, 8 hours, whatever. Do that for a few days. If it's a super, super sunny day, you might not want to plant on that. Look to plant on overcast days, because one of the main problems with planting something that's been growing outdoors on a sunny day is that it will burn the leaves. So look to plant on overcast day. Water daily for the first couple of weeks while they establish. Mulching around the base of transplants is a great way to reduce the need for watering. It holds the water retention is a lot better. In terms of seeds, just planting prior to a period of rain, if you can, is great for germination. You're also going to be watering daily for the first couple of weeks. It doesn't have to be a deep water for seeds because they're just germinating. Don't forget to thin, especially your root vegetables. So that kind of like a month in, they're going to be coming up. You want to make sure that they're not too crowded, or you won't get anything out of the harvest. And obviously avoid planting before heat spells. And this really applies to the summer for those who are wanting to try to plant stuff for fall harvest. Stay away from any of those times where it's abnormally hot, because the seeds will not germinate during that time. So yeah, and you're just always wanting to keep in mind, especially for your seeds, like when is your date to maturity? If planting something right now, is it going to be ready in August, or is it going to be ready in September? So it's really important to know that. And it's fun to also at this time of year to look at the plants you are putting in the ground, to get the students to take pictures, to maybe measure them, too, so that they can come back and really get that surprise in the fall. It's funny, especially with younger kids, when they put a seedling in, they really think like, there it is, like that is the plant. And then when they come back and it's 2 feet taller, they're just like, whoa. And so it's good to try to really remind them that, there was all this growth during the summer when they were gone. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add to that.
So this is just an example. It's on that page as well, that on the link that we shared out before. So thinking about maybe for next year is working with a nonprofit and hiring a summer student to take care of your garden in July and August. So if there's a bunch of school gardens, there's a strong nonprofit presence in your area that might have some capacity for this. It works really, really well. So yeah, I just wanted to pay attention to it. I'm not going to go into it in detail right now, but it's on the page as well. That's the second handout on that website. So what are you doing in the summer? We're so curious. We're just gonna stay in a group here. So folks that are growing things in the summer, what are you doing? Tell in the chat, unmute, let's hear it.
I'll just start this off.
Right.
We have a school in our district that is made a Google sheet and has parents from the school volunteering to take 1 week of the summer, or staff.
Yeah, just jumping in on that, Serena. The first and one of the most successful school gardens that I saw that was maintained in the summer months did that exact one. To keep it really simple, it's just like, here's your week. That's how they did it. And I saw that work really well for that school. Not to say that other models can't work, but yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to go about it sometimes.
Awesome. Erica, did you have your hand raised for a minute there?
I did.
Yay.
We're gonna be interesting situation. So we just this week started construction on a brand new playground at the back of our school, which is where we have the too. So we luckily last Monday we got the kids in. We did a whole bunch of planting, and our radishes have come up already, which is awesome. But for now, we have to kind of observe from quite a distance because all the heavy machinery is back there right now. So we'll see. But yeah, we're gonna revamp again. Last year we had families volunteer for a week, and then any weeks that weren't covered, we did have staff, and most of it ended up being later in the summer. So most of the teachers were back from their vacations by that point, and we can get everything covered. But I think there's a lot of excitement this year. Last year was it's a little new. Nobody really knew what was happening, and so hopefully this time we get a few more families who take it on.
That sounds awesome. Thank you for sharing. Patty, you do weekly garden work parties, 3 community volunteers, 2 teachers, 2 parents. Do you want to tell us more? Can you unmute, share what you're doing?
Yeah, that's the plan. So we haven't really set up the schedule yet. So that's kind of what 2 teachers have said they will help, and 3 community volunteers and 2 parents have come forward. But yeah, no, we don't have a sign-up sheet. We're just going to pick a day. We're restricted. We are not allowed to give out duplicate keys. We are not allowed to, we only are allowed to have a padlock. Those are school district operation restrictions. So we have to, the 2 people that have been, I guess, cleared to have keys, one of them has to be in attendance at all times when the garden is open. So we can't do the assign to a family a week unless there's somebody there. So
who said that to you, Patty? It's Laura Lynn.
Our admin.
Oh, okay. I have a lockbox on the gate, and it has the key to the padlock in it, and so that works for us. Yeah.
We've been strictly told. Whether it's a common practice or a common rule, I don't know, but that's what we've been told. So.
Okay. All right.
Well, sometimes sharing what other you know, schools are doing in your same district might be helpful. I feel like some admins are kind of, they're not really sure, so they kind of maybe come out a little stricter and then hopefully would back off. That sounds a bit hard to deal with.
We've got a comment from Young Young as well in there. They mentioned we have a couple of neighbors that will be the coordinators of the summer maintenance crew. Families sign up for a week of watering. They could harvest during their week. One teacher will be the contact for July and another for August. Divide and conquer. Is this the first time trying that that you guys are doing here? How did that all? I'm curious to how that all came together. That sounds like a great plan.
Oh, yes. So we just got our garden boxes and but we have been working on this for 3 years now. We finally got money to actually build it. And the two neighbors have been gung-ho since the beginning. So they continue to say they would help. So they live just a block away. And I work with them all year long. So they said they will help coordinate and come if necessary to train the volunteers, to show them, because they're so close by. And then I'll be in July, I'll be the contact person, and then another teacher will be the teacher contact person in August when I go on vacation, right? So yeah, and I think it's going to work out well. This is our first year, but I think it's going to work out well.
That sounds cool. I like that the neighbors have been involved since the beginning. That's really exciting. I think people like, you know, they like having gardens around, you know, like it looks good. It's nice to have close by. So if they are gardeners, then that's amazing.
Yeah, they helped us put the trellis up too. Like he's very handy.
Cool.
So if we needed anything, any maintenance in the garden, he's up for it. That's great.
Yeah, that is really great. I love having like people with tools. Where are you? Just come.
On the back of that, can I just ask, how do you reach out and ask neighbors for help? Like, do you put up a sign in the neighborhood, or is it like, or is it more parents kind of see what needs to be done and they volunteer?
For me, it was grandparents. They were dropping kids off, or you can ask parents if they live in the neighborhood too, right? And then these were the two grandparents. They always come by looking around, kind of trying to figure out how to get involved in the school.
Gotcha. Okay.
Has anyone else had any luck with neighbors they want to share? You know, there's one school in Kamloops that they just went and they kind of come out during the day and like peered over the fence. But I think the teacher also like went over and like knocked on the door. Like, you know, there's like 4 houses that kind of overlook the garden and just say, hey, I'm a teacher here.
Yeah, and I think in another school they had like a garden welcome party. Like if you have like either some kind of, one of our schools had like a neighborhood party, so they had a barbecue or like a potluck, I think, at the school in the afternoon, and they invited the neighborhood. So, you know, if you had a new school garden, you know, that would be one strategy you could try is having some kind of garden event and inviting. And it's a good way to get parent volunteers out as well.
I really like that idea. Thank you.
I see also in the comment box that Kim was saying that they just got a garden tower, and for this year we'll be coming in once a week to check on it and water all the plants in the art studio, and then getting planting a new garden box. Baby steps. It's been a slow process, but small steps are better than no steps. Yep, that's right. Nice. I was curious about for anyone who has had experience partnering with master gardeners in helping to manage your gardens. Who would care to speak to that, because I've been around some gardens that have had that sort of partnership, and those gardens tend to be looking quite good. Does anyone here want to share a little bit about how they went about that and what that kind of looks like?
I can talk, Laura Lynn. I in Victoria, Colquitt's, and the Victoria Horticulture Society or Center, Victoria Horticultural Society has a fruit and veggie group, of which Patty is part of it, and another volunteer, Erin Becker, was part of that, and she is working with the people at the Master Gardeners in the Horticulture Center, and they are trying to coordinate having people connect with close to them schools that have gardens. So Erin lives quite close to Colquitt, so she started volunteering September 2020. And I had another volunteer before that who's I've had for lots of years. And so together, the three of us are going to sort of have weekly work parties this summer. We are going to have a big garlic harvesting, but now I realize it has to be the 8th of July because that's the last day the schools are open, and it's nice to use the portable tables. That is, and I think they are the Paula McCormick at the Horticulture Center is trying to connect Master Gardeners to school gardens, right, Marcus? Anyway.
Sorry, I was trying to get unmuted there. I've heard that, but I haven't been closely associated with it. I know that they're interested in doing that. Kind of wondering, are these Master Gardeners, how do people find them? How do they find out about them? Is there a central location on the website? Does it exist in lots of communities or more in urban centers? Maybe Patty, you could speak to that, or maybe Laura Lynn.
Patty, are you a Master Gardener?
No, I'm not a Master Gardener, but I would say I would say I have the qualifications for a Master Gardener. No, I think you just inquire through the website to get if you want to connect up with one.
Yeah, I think so too.
Great. Any other?
Thanks, Carrie. Carrie's on it. She has a contact us right there. Oh, and Van Dusen has a list of Master Gardeners too. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. That was wonderful. Lots of different ways to do it. I like it.
Another comment. They have an application form, says Marion. So yeah, let us know. Interested to hear more about that. So we just wanted to, we have the next couple slides are like sort of a combination of, as you know, back early on in this session, if you've been attending since early on, we've talked about sort of this idea that, you know, it starts with you, you know, the so-called champion, the one who might have the initial investment or how, you know, it starts with your vision, your passion, and then you're looking to build a community around it, bringing your team or committee, as we've been calling it. And so we just wanted to take a moment right here before heading into the summer, just to reflect upon, you know, your own personal self and how you're doing, and then also some tips about reminding you about that team reflection and how to encourage the team to open up and be aware of kind of where they are at. And so Addie and I just thought we could, you know, have a brief conversation that would allow us to maybe talk and share where we're at, and maybe others might hear that. And these are things that you probably, most of you know about already, but just a couple reminders about here you are, you're about to kind of move into the summer. And so if you are going to have a committee meeting or sit down with any of those, you know, awesome team, you know, partners that you're doing this with, you know, how are things evolving for them? You know, these questions are good to propose to people to ensure that they're still in it for what they thought they were going to get into it. So are they still feeling motivated to continue on, you know, trying to catch it before they burn out? And what are the barriers for the success of your program? And really trying to get that down on paper, or like have a meeting and start to tick it off, being like, we want this, and this is what's getting in the way. And maybe, you know, for somebody like you, Kim, it's about your committee coming together and being like, here's our goals that we really want to be, and we don't think we can get there, and this is why. Like, these are literally the reasons why. And so do we, you know, literally proposing to your admin, do you think that we are going to be able to get to these goals, or should we have different goals? You know, proposing that question might be very important. And then, also it's great to talk about what are some of the highlights with your students so far. Like, don't forget to celebrate your accomplishments with your team, even at this early stage. Be like, okay, we came from here and now we're here. And then, as always, it's great to get more and more people aware of what you're at, whether that's struggling or success. So drafting a newsletter, in a story that goes out to your newsletter saying, like, here's where we're at. We would love to be here. We have goals of this. Or we were surprised how great things are growing. We really didn't think it was going to be this amazing, but it is so amazing. So making sure to always be promoting that out and kind of getting a little bit of a buzz around it is really good. And I always talk about a story where I struggled with a principal over 10 years ago that really didn't like the garden because they wanted it meticulous. They didn't want any weed or anything in there. And they had an argument with me about it one time. And then the next day, the local news station just happened to hear about how beautiful the garden was and came and asked to do a story. And so this principal then had to contact me and say, hey, can you come back to the school tomorrow? We're going to do a news story. And we walked around the garden and were filmed, and it was kind of an awkward moment. But you never know. So staff and volunteer turnover. This is a good time to be making sure everybody's on board. It's kind of like a segue out of that sort of team reflection. So again, as Addie was saying at the beginning, communication. So are we all returning next year? Are key parents committing for the next year? Who's going to be going over the summer, but will they also be continuing on? And this is really important specifically because certain members of a garden team might have certain responsibilities or certain skill sets that others don't have. And so it's important to start thinking about how can we look to find someone like that? And if we can't find someone who has maybe you have someone on your staff who is, or within your committee who is a master gardener, so they're going to leave. And then you realize, oh, actually, most of us here, we're passionate about learning. We're passionate. We see that students love to be in the garden, but actually we're not super good at gardening. So this is that key time where it's like, can we find that person who will replace them? Or do we want to just kind of think differently about how the garden is going to be in the meantime? So that's just always something like you need to be adaptable, and that's fine. But as we've learned in this webinar here today, there's these master gardeners out there. There's different people with different skill sets. So before they go, if someone is going to be moving on, staff or volunteer, write down what they were doing. Get any contacts that they may have had. If they were somebody who knew this amazing person that always comes and helps you out with building boxes or has irrigation, can we get that contact before you go? And making sure, obviously, to say thank you. And this also is like that really crucial time with principal turnover too, or even caretakers, is to make sure that there's a bit of a transition, that maybe you can be introduced to the new person and let them know what the vision is of your team. You see it often, a new principal, the principal that was there who helped you build it had that vision and had that excitement about your project, but the new one coming in, they just don't. And it might be because they don't really see the value. And so sometimes it's really important to be able to prepare to make that link. And that same thing can apply with new caretakers. Sometimes a new caretaker will come in and say, hey, wait a minute, like, I didn't know anything about turning taps on, or the fact that muddy shoes were going to be coming in every Wednesday and Thursday. And so it's important to meet with them, talk with the principal, let them know what the vision is, make sure that they're okay with it. It's really important. I've seen these things firsthand make projects, garden projects, kind of falter and create a lot of stress because of not really proper communication. And that's not always on you. It can be on the principal to make sure that this is happening. So just something to keep in mind. And this time of year too, before heading out, especially of those students that might be graduating and maybe have been part of the program since the beginning, this is a great time to grab quotes from them, ask them about their experience, what they loved, and then promote that out. It's like, you're moving up to middle school, like, how was the garden program and whatnot? And if you know that the middle school they're going to has a garden, that's an exciting way that you can connect, say, hey, you're going to move on and there's going to be another garden at your next school, etc. So these are all so the key points. So yeah, we're pretty much wrapping up for the better part of the presentation now, and I will pass it over to Addie just for some reminders about the program, some upcoming dates, and our giveaway. So over to you, Addie, please.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm just grabbing these links here so I can make sure that I'm sharing them with everyone. So if you haven't joined our listserv yet, please do so. We can keep in touch over the summer, keep your support going. We'll be your cheerleaders. You can get in touch with us over the summer. Marcus and I are both working, so yeah, get in touch. Okay, so we have finalized our registration and dates for July and August. So if you want to, and we're doing it at 10 a.m. because we don't need to meet at 3:15 anymore. 10 to 11 a.m. July 12th. We're keeping it on the Tuesday, but Marcus and I are kind of going on holidays between there. So we kind of have an early July and a late August. So July 12th and August 23rd are the dates. We'll send out some links on Zoom to our listserv and yep, I guess that's it. Just our listserv and on social media, of course. So yeah, there'll be an hour. It'll be more chill, probably like this kind of vibe. We'll be able to answer any questions, check in how things are doing. Yeah, we just want you to not be alone because you're not, you're doing such important work. So we want to be here for you.
And just to make sure, these ones you haven't signed up for. You know, so if you went at the very beginning of the year and you signed up for sort of the whole thing, these ones didn't exist on the Eventbrite. So you will need to go and sign up for these ones to have that sort of Zoom link, etc. So go back into the website and you'll now see that they've been added.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And then if you were super eager and you signed up all the way through, these are the existing ones that we had before. So we are meeting back September 20th, which is my birthday, 34. Yes. At 3:15 again. And then October 18th, we are finishing up How to Winterize Your Garden, wrap it all up, and then you can take a deep breath of relief and relaxation and chill for winter. So we have our giveaway now. If you haven't, I think Young won it last time, so don't answer it this time. But if you are a teacher in BC, ready, the first correct answer, you are going to win. I will buy this book for you and send it to your school or your home address, whatever you prefer. All right, and the question is, ready, fingers over the keyboard. When Marcus first began teaching in school gardens, the students sometimes called him Mr. Blank. What's your guess? It's a vegetable. The first person to get it right wins the book. What do you think?
Just add some context to it.
Oh,
there it is, Erica B.
Broccoli. Okay, I do want to hear the story because I don't know this story.
Okay, well, so I was teaching this, it was a pre-K class, and one time I told them that my middle name was Broccoli, Mr. Broccoli, like my middle name. And then I forgot to tell them I was kidding. And then, so then they started calling me Mr. Broccoli, and they thought it was the funniest thing ever. I mean, they're 4 or 5 or whatever, and they thought it was just hilarious. And then I started realizing, I was like, it's actually amazing to have a fake name as like in this role, because they light up more when they see you. And so they started calling me that. And then about 2 years into it, because I went to the school for about 3 years of teaching after school gardening programs with the kids. Then at a certain point, about 3 years into it, everyone only called me Mr. Broccoli. And my main group that I've been working with for 3 years, one time heard another teacher say, "Hey, Marcus, can you do this thing?" And then the student turned to me and he goes, "Wait, is your name Marcus?" And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "I thought it was Mr. Broccoli." I was like, "No, that was just like a made up name I told the pre-K kids at one time." And we just burst out laughing. And so that's the story behind it.
That's a really good story. All right, Erica, if you could please send me your address that you want me to send you the book. It does take a couple of weeks. So if you, school might be an iffy one, so I can send it to your house because it's yours forever. It's so good. If you want a copy of it. Yay.
Yes, please.
Great. And if other folks are interested in Young, I don't know if you used it yet or not, but it's really great. I have
Yes,
it.
and I'm sharing it with my committee. So
oh, good. You're so nice. So there is a link if you would like to buy the book. And also here's a link to the feedback survey. So please let us know what you thought of the session today. I know it was kind of a different, yeah, it was nice to just like have some discussion with folks today. So thank you so much. As always, reach out for support. If you are in a specific hub, you can find your school district here and reach out to the animators, many of which are on the call today. And Marcus and I are always here to chat. And those are our email addresses. So thank you everyone so much for coming today. It was so wonderful to see you all. And this is our website, farmtoschoolbc.ca. There's lots of resources on there. And if you are looking for some like last minute spring activities, I have a really sweet list of spring learning activities on our website. So you can check that out for just after report cards are done, you need some stuff to do, you can head right outside and there's lots of really fun things to do on there.